What if I told you that this video is alchemy happening right now, before your eyes? No, it's not just another piece of content on the internet. And if you clicked, if you're here, it's because something inside you asked for this, asked for change, asked for truth. In spiritual alchemy, nothing is by chance. Chance is just an unrecognized law. Everything follows a principle. Everything is mental. Everything vibrates. Your thought was the cause. This video is the effect. You feel it because even if your mind questions it, deep down, you know this is no coincidence. The Kybalion, this veiled work guarded for centuries among initiates, doesn't show up for everyone. It only appears to those who are ready to break the veil of illusion and begin transforming their own reality from the inside out. Being here now is your sign, and it doesn't matter if you understand everything or still feel lost. The truth is, you don't need more information, you need to remember. And what's going to be said here will help you do exactly that. Because, at the end of this video, I'm going to show you how to use the 7 principles of the Kybalion to completely change your reality in a practical, direct, and definitive way. The ancient origin of secret knowledge. But first, you need to hear what only those who are ready can hear. Long before modern science, even before religions were structured as we know them today, there was a name whispered among priests, philosophers, and initiates: Hermes Trismegistus, thrice great, thrice master, thrice initiated into the deepest mysteries of creation. He is the point where 2 ancient cultures meet. In Egypt, he was Thoth, the god of wisdom, writing, and time. In Greece, he became Hermes, the messenger between worlds, patron of hidden knowledge and divine communication. The fusion of these 2 figures resulted in an archetype so powerful that its influence crossed centuries, hidden among symbols, ciphers, and coded words. Hermes was considered the founder of the first mystery school in Egypt, a temple where knowledge was not handed out directly but experienced by those who were ready to receive it. His teachings were so secret, so sealed, that they gave rise to the term we still use today. Hermetic knowledge, a locked wisdom inaccessible to the superficial gaze, reserved only for initiates, like a spiritual vault guarding the laws that govern the invisible. About 35 works were attributed to him, many of which were lost in the fires that destroyed the Library of Alexandria. But a small part survived, and it was this spark that lit the flame of a work that would pass through the centuries: the Kybalion, written in 1908 by authors who chose to remain anonymous, signing only as the 3 initiates, discovering the 7 Hermetic principles. The Kybalion is not an ordinary book. It is a treatise, a coded compendium that synthesizes the entire essence of original Hermeticism. Although it may seem recent, its foundation is ancient. The language may have been adapted to the modern world, but the content pulses with the same energy as the hieroglyphs carved into the stones of the Temple of Thoth. This oral and vibrational lineage was never meant to be popular. That's why few have heard of it, and even fewer have understood it. All is mind the universe as a living thought, and it is precisely because of this silent legacy, passed on in an almost invisible way, that the first principle revealed in the Kybalion has such a deep impact: mentalism. According to this law, everything that exists, absolutely everything, is mind. The entire universe with its planets, galaxies, cycles of nature, human emotions, ideas, and memories, it's all a living thought vibrating within the consciousness of the all. This is not a metaphor. For the initiates, this is literal. You are not observing the universe from the outside, you are inside it. More than that, you're inside the mind of God. Imagine a mind so vast, so powerful, that everything it thinks manifests as reality. That is the essence of the all, the primordial consciousness, the source. The Hindus called it Mahatma, the cosmic mind, the Gnostics, Pleroma, the Hermetists simply the all. But what does that mean in practice? It means that the reality you live in right now is directly shaped by the quality of your thoughts. Everything begins within. Nothing moves out there without first moving in here. The mind is the matrix, your perception, your mental patterns, your deepest beliefs. All of that functions as the brush with which you are painting your existence. It's as if we are living inside a simulation, but a simulation created by spiritual laws. And the most surprising part, you actively take part in this creation. Your thoughts, emotions, intentions, and vibrational states directly affect the events around you. This truth is behind everything the ancient masters taught. That's why Buddha said suffering is born from the mind, why Jesus said faith can move mountains, and why Hermes revealed that everything is mental. Modern quantum physics is beginning to align with this idea. The famous observer effect, which shows how the behavior of particles changes depending on the presence of an observing consciousness, is just one of many pieces of evidence that the mind influences matter. So, if the universe is mind and you are a spark of that supreme mind, what is stopping your life from being consciously shaped? Law and serendipity. And when you begin to understand that everything is mind, that reality is shaped from the inside out, a question naturally arises. Then why do things seem to happen so randomly? Why do some people suffer so much while others move through life with ease? The answer lies in what the Kybalion reveals directly. Everything happens according to law. True chance does not exist. What we call luck, coincidence, or fate is actually just a spiritual law we have not yet recognized. The universe is not random chaos. It is a perfect symphony governed by 7 universal laws. And these laws don't need your belief to operate. Just like gravity doesn't stop acting if you don't believe in it. The Hermetic laws act on your life constantly, even if you're unaware of them. One of the most important is the law of cause and effect. Everything you are living today is a direct consequence of causes set into motion in the past. Not just actions, but thoughts, emotions, and vibrations you've maintained over time. This is karma. This is subtle physics. This is Hermeticism in its purest form. To illustrate this more clearly, I'll share with you a brief story that perfectly represents this principle. In a village surrounded by mountains, there lived an old gardener known for his calm and wisdom. Every day, he tended his plants with great patience, even when the sun was harsh or the rain destroyed his garden. A young man from the village, frustrated with his own failures, asked the old man why his life was so hard while the old man seemed to live in peace. The old man smiled and said, "Come early tomorrow morning. I want to show you something." The next morning, they took a seed to the top of a hill. The old man asked the young man to plant it and then return every day to water it. At first, nothing happened. After weeks, a small sprout appeared. The young man began to smile, but one stormy day, the sprout was ripped out by the wind. Frustrated, the young man shouted, "See, nothing ever works out." The old man calmly replied, "You want to harvest an oak tree with the patience of a flower. That was just one cause among millions. Your life is the sum of all the seeds you've planted, whether you were aware of them or not. Some sprout quickly, others take years. Some you've forgotten you even buried, but no seed fails to answer the law." This simple story holds the heart of the law of cause and effect. You are not at the mercy of invisible forces playing with your life. You are experiencing the effects of the causes you have already set in motion or accepted unconsciously. Everything you vibrate, think, feel, desire, reject, all of it returns to you in the form of experience. Rhythm and polarity, constant transformation. Rhythm and return. The path is not linear, and it is precisely when we understand that everything we experience is the result of causes we set in motion that we begin to see the logic behind the highs and lows of our journey. But even with that understanding, there are moments when everything seems to fall apart. You take one step forward and feel like you're going 2 steps back. The feeling of regression can be frustrating. However, this too is governed by one of the 7 laws, the law of rhythm. This law teaches us that everything in life moves like a pendulum. Everything flows, everything ebbs. Emotions, energy, relationships, finances, health, spirituality. There is a constant oscillation, sometimes subtle, sometimes intense, but it never stops. Nothing rises or falls forever, just as the sea has its tides, as day turns into night, as winter comes before spring. Your life also goes through inevitable cycles. These cycles don't mean failure. They are part of the sacred mechanics of the universe. The financial market itself, for example, is a practical expression of this. Experienced analysts know that continuous growth is an illusion. Moments of correction will always come. The secret lies in not panicking during the valleys and not being deceived by the peaks. That is rhythm. And here comes an even deeper key. Plato said that the soul evolves in a spiral. This means that even if you feel like you're returning to the same point, you're not in the same place as before. You're revisiting that point, but from a new level of consciousness. It's like climbing a spiral-shaped mountain. You pass the same angles, the same landscapes, but each time from higher up. What once affected you deeply now only touches the surface. What once seemed like the end is now just part of the path. The regression, then, is an illusion. It is only the curve of the spiral of your own transformation. Notice how that changes everything. When you accept the rhythm, you stop fighting against the cycles. You start using the inward phases to dive into yourself and the expansion phases to manifest with awareness. The secret is not in avoiding movement, but in learning to dance with it. And if rhythm shows us that everything oscillates, then polarity reveals that everything also has 2 sides of the same essence. Life is not made of absolute opposites, but of variations in frequency within the same vibrational line. What we call cold and hot, for example, are not different substances, but simply different intensities of the same phenomenon temperature. And the same applies to emotions like fear and love, sadness and enthusiasm, chaos and order. These seemingly opposite pairs are connected by an invisible bridge, the degree of vibration. The more subtle the vibration, the higher its expression. Matter vibrates slowly, so it appears solid, dense, limited. When the vibration speeds up, matter becomes energy. Faster still, it becomes light. Even faster, spirit. And at the highest point, this vibration merges with the one itself, what we call God. Inner alchemy. Transmuting states. Here lies the secret of transmutation. You don't need to stop being who you are or try to eliminate your shadow. What you need to do is raise the vibration of what already exists within you. Fear can be transmuted into courage. Attachment can become conscious love. Anger can turn into transformative action. And pain, a catalyst for awakening. This is the essence of true alchemy, not turning lead into physical gold, but transmuting internal states, changing the vibrational degree of a lower state into a higher one, without denying the nature of what is being transformed. Just like an alchemist works with fire, with timing and intensity of the flame to reach the elixir. The practitioner of Hermetic wisdom learns to observe their inner states and act with intention to raise their frequency. That is inner alchemy. That is vibrational mastery. That is awakening purpose in motion. Purpose and personal evolution. the little dots that guide the path. And it's at this point in the journey that something begins to move silently but powerfully within you. A shift that's almost imperceptible yet transformative. As you apply the Hermetic principles and cultivate the practice of inner transmutation, you become more aware of yourself. And with this new awareness, you realize that what you used to call your life purpose might have only been an invitation. A little ball thrown ahead by your soul, not as a final destination, but as a tool the universe used to get you moving. How many times have you chased something with all your energy, believing it was the peak of your mission, only to realize, once you reached it, that it no longer made sense? It happens to everyone who walks the path, and it's not a mistake. Hermes Trismegistus said, "The path reveals the seeker." That means you don't have to know everything before you begin. The veil lifts as you walk. You find yourself through the search. Every desire, every goal, every dream that once pulsed inside you was the exact reflection of your consciousness at that moment. And when your consciousness changes, your desires change too. That's why so many dreams die before coming true, not because you failed, but because you changed. The version of you that wanted that is no longer in charge. It's been replaced by a new identity, more conscious, more connected, more refined. And that's not failure. That's evolution. Purpose, contrary to what people often teach, is not something fixed, unchanging, carved in stone. It is alive. It breathes with you. It moves as you transform. Imagine you're in an open field, throwing little balls ahead of you. You run toward one, commit to reaching it, dive in head first. But along the way, another ball appears. Maybe it's brighter, maybe it feels lighter, maybe it's more challenging. And it's natural to want to go after it. The previous ball wasn't in vain. It served its purpose to pull you out of inertia, to push you to the next level. Each of those little balls is a sacred stage. They're what shaped who you are becoming. They're what taught you to trust the movement, to open up to the new, to expand your perception of what's possible. The mistake would be clinging to a ball that no longer vibrates with your soul, just out of fear of seeming inconsistent. But what appears to be inconsistency is often just the reflection of a soul that's expanding. And maybe right now, a new ball is beginning to show up. It might be subtle, like a restlessness deep in your chest, a recurring thought, a desire to move to a new city, to change careers, to study something you've never considered before. And even if it doesn't make sense yet, even if your mind tries to dismiss the impulse, there's something there, a new cycle wanting to be born. That's the invitation of awakened consciousness to realize that purpose is not a straight line leading to a place. Purpose is a constantly rising spiral. With each turn, you see the world from a new angle. And what once seemed fundamental now feels small. That's not devaluation, it's clarity. You no longer have to blame yourself for changing your mind. You no longer have to feel ashamed for letting go of an old dream. Every ball you chased was necessary. Every path, every detour, every apparent mistake was, in truth, the next right step. Because purpose isn't out there, in a trophy to be won. It's inside. And it reveals itself with every step, with every yes you give to your process. And as long as you keep throwing those little balls, as long as you keep allowing yourself to move with curiosity and presence, the path will never stop revealing itself. Because purpose isn't about arriving, it's about continuing. And as long as there's movement, there will be meaning. The universe's source code and how to apply the Kybalion. All the laws are one, the source code of the universe. And as new little balls appear and your path becomes clearer, you start to realize that none of this is random. There is a code behind reality, an invisible pattern that weaves everything together silently. like a spiritual thread connecting all the experiences you've had up to now. This thread is made of the 7 Hermetic laws. And the more you understand them, the more you see that deep down. They're all different expressions of a single wisdom. That's why when you try to understand one law in isolation, you quickly find yourself touching the others. Talking about rhythm inevitably means talking about polarity. Understanding cause and effect is impossible without recognizing mentalism. It's like trying to separate the threads of a tapestry without unraveling the whole design. Each law is an aspect of the all. Each one reveals a facet of how the universal mind operates. Mentalism is the structure that holds everything together. It states that all is mind, that everything begins with thought, with creative consciousness. It is the starting point of everything. Correspondence acts as the bridge between worlds. As above, so below. As within, so without. It allows us to read the signs of the outer world as reflections of our inner universe. Vibration shows us that nothing is at rest. Everything pulses, everything moves, everything vibrates at some level. This law reveals the dynamic flow of creation. Polarity shows that everything has 2 sides, 2 extremes of the same thing, hot and cold, love and fear, light and shadow. This law teaches us to transmute by consciously shifting from one pole to another. The law of rhythm shows that everything moves in cycles. The universe breathes, the tides rise and fall. Life pulses between highs and lows. This law invites us to dance with acceptance and the wisdom of timing. Cause and effect reveals that nothing happens by chance. Every action generates a reaction. Every choice plants a seed. Reality responds to what you put out, consciously or unconsciously. And the law of gender shows that everything holds within it both the active and receptive principles, the creative impulse and the creative receptacle. Life is born when these forces are in harmony. Together, these laws form the foundation of the universe's source code. They are the invisible engine that drives creation. Most people go through life being pulled by them, reacting to their effects without knowing they could navigate them consciously. But those who learn to observe these principles in action, who study and live these patterns with awakened attention, become the alchemists of their own reality. How to use the Kybalion to change your reality. How to use the Kybalion to change your reality once and for all. And when the seeker begins to see this great source code that structures reality, an even deeper truth emerges. The initiate does not fight against the laws. He dances with them. The Kybalion is clear when it says, "The wise man does not rebel against the law, but understands and uses it. The average man is carried along by it like a log floating on the current. The initiate, however, swims with it and by doing so surpasses it." Imagine 2 swimmers in a river with a strong current. The first, unaware of the tides, struggles against the force of the water, trying to move forward through sheer brute strength. In no time, he is exhausted and pulled backward. The second, however, knows the flows, the curves, the rhythm of the waters. He doesn't fight it. He observes, understands, and adjusts his body to glide with ease. He seems to fly over the water. That is the difference between someone living unconsciously and someone awakened to the laws. The first lives in conflict, trying to change the outer world without understanding the inner world. The second changes their frequency and watches the world shift around them. When you understand mentalism, you begin to watch your thoughts. When you understand correspondence, you begin to see how external patterns reflect what's inside. When you understand rhythm, you stop punishing yourself during the lows and start respecting your own rising cycle. True power is not in control, it is in alignment. This is the secret of the masters. They are not trying to force life, they align with it. They create not through effort, but through vibration. And now that you've also started to see all of this, the question comes that changes everything. How do you use the Kybalion in practice to change your reality once and for all? You are not here just to admire concepts. You're here to activate this in your own life. And it's possible. You just need to start living according to these laws. Let's look at each one of them calmly now, in a direct way, with real examples so you can apply them today. Mentalism. Everything starts in the mind. Your reality is a direct reflection of your dominant thoughts. If you think scarcity, you experience lack. If you vibrate fear, you attract experiences that feed it. What to do? Watch your inner dialogue. Start the day with positive affirmations. Visualize every day the reality you want to live as if it's already happening. Avoid negative conversations and content that brings you down. All of that pollutes the mental field. Practical example. Instead of thinking, I never have enough money, switch to, how do I create opportunities for prosperity every day? Correspondence. What happens on the outside is a reflection of what's happening inside. Is your relationship confusing? Look at how your inner dialogue has been. Is your house messy? Maybe your mind is too. What to do? Bring order to the micro, taking care of your room, your nutrition. Your body reflects in the macro. Practical example. Start by tidying up your space before making important decisions. It changes your vibration and clarity. Vibration. Everything vibrates. Everything is frequency. And you only attract what matches your vibration. Want love. Vibrate love. Want peace. Vibrate peace. What to do? Raise your frequency with silence, meditation, nature, music, art, laughter, gratitude. Practical example. Keep a gratitude journal and write down 3 things you're grateful for every day. It shifts your frequency in under 3 minutes. Polarity. Everything has 2 poles. Cold is the absence of heat. Hatred is misdirected love. You don't need to eliminate the negative, you need to shift the degree. What to do? Transmute. When you feel anger, channel it into movement, action, art. When you feel fear, observe how much of it can become awareness or caution. Practical example. Instead of running from sadness, use it as fuel to search for something more meaningful. Rhythm. Everything has highs and lows. No one vibrates high all the time, and that's okay. Accepting your cycles is aligning with nature. What to do? Learn to rest in the valleys and take action during the peaks. Avoid making major decisions during low moments. Practical example. On a low energy day, allow yourself to slow down without guilt. That is rhythmic wisdom. Cause and effect. Nothing is by chance. Every action creates a consequence. What you're living today is the result of seeds you planted before. What to do? Plant differently now. Change your habits, your thoughts, your posture. Practical example. If you're constantly stressed, check your sleep, your nutrition, your rest cycles. Small causes, big effects. Gender everything contains both masculine and feminine principles. The masculine is action, the feminine is intuition, gestation. Balancing these forces within yourself is essential to create a stable reality. What to do? Act when it's time to act. Withdraw when it's time to feel. Value intuition as much as planning. Practical example. Before making an important decision, listen to your intuition first, then apply it with clarity and focus. You don't have to get everything right. You just need to align your being with the law. When you change internally, the universe responds. It always has. But now you're starting to hear it. And before you go, there's something really important waiting for you in the first pinned comment. I've left the book The Kybalion for anyone who wants to get it and dive even deeper into this ancient knowledge. And if in any way this video touched you and you feel like supporting this work, I've also left a direct link for contributions. This really helps keep the channel going and spread this message to more people who, just like you, are ready to awaken. See you in the next video.